Hi, today I'm going to talk a little bit about geology, what it is, just kind of define the term, kind of talk about the points that Bryson makes in chapter 5 and 6 of the book, and how that historical knowledge kind of shapes, what our ideas are and how we can use that in the future. So, first off, geology is basically, to me at least, just kind of how the earth works or understanding like the processes that are driving the driving forces within the earth, stuff like that. um, it's also the study of the using the patterns that we've observed and recorded in recent history, and also a long time ago, using those patterns to explain what's going on, and to make predictions and develop ideas about how the Earth works, why it does what it does, and what it's going to do. So early cultures, early civilizations, take an earthquake for example. Their explanation of that may have been that that was the God's way of um, lashing out at them or expressing, you know, the God's anger. Um, as we gained knowledge into how the world worked, those explanations weren't needed as much. So that change in the way we looked at the world, because we weren't explaining things based on looking at the sky and making ideas about why the Earth just shook. Now we know that there's actually plates moving around. There's an explanation for why it happens, and we're not using spiritual ideology in explaining the world. Um, Next up, Bryson talks a lot about how this historical knowledge was gained from the study of geology, which I really think is an important point, because looking back when there was no recorded history, take the time of the dinosaurs for example, or before modern languages were developed, um, there was no way of recording history. So there's no books written about the I mean, there are now, but there were no books written about the time of the dinosaurs and what the world looked like. So we develop those ideas and our knowledge now based on, our geological discoveries. So if a scientist uncovers a skeleton of a dinosaur, so a fossil, um, they can determine based on where they find that, where the animal lived, and then when they construct the mock-up, or they create a model of a dinosaur, they're then able to see how big the dinosaur was. They can determine what it ate based on where it lived and stuff like that. They can take that information. That then gives us an idea of what the world looked like millions of years ago, even though there was no way to write about it. So I think that aspect of geology is really interesting, in that it can tell us so much about what the world looked like in a time when there were no humans there, who were able to write it down or to, type a book about it. The last part is kind of the future, and how I think, based on all of our knowledge, our geological knowledge of the past, we're able to, make predictions about what the future is going to look like, just on, seeing like volcanic eruptions, for example. How if a volcano goes off, we know there's kind of a cycle to that. We're able to make predictions about when it might go off next, and we're able to also look back on the world and see how volcanic eruptions specifically, how they affected the world, and how they may affect the world in the future if they erupt again. So I think that's an interesting part of geology. Um, and yeah, I think that's what geology is to me. Thanks for listening.